Good evening, welcome to the Tuesday, January 14th, 2020 meeting of the Town of Woodbridge Board of Police Commissioners. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from December 10th, 2019.
I move that we approve.
Do we have a quorum for that?
We did three.
Were you there?
I was there. Steve was there, you were there.
Yes,
Okay.
okay, yep.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Next item on the agenda is the public comments and correspondence. Is there any correspondence?
There was none.
Is there any member of the public that wishes to be heard?
Yes.
If you can come forward, state your name.
Good evening, my name is Glenn Duell. I come as a resident of Woodbridge and president of the Congregation of B'nai Jacob. I come to ask, or to request, a cruiser that's not being used be placed at the driveway of B'nai Jacob, beginning on Friday afternoons, about 6, maybe 5:30 p.m. Until 10 o'clock at night, when we have Friday night services. On Saturday mornings, beginning about 9 o'clock in the morning, maybe a little bit earlier.
Earlier for the businessman service, which is 7:30.
7:30 in the morning, which for minion services, which are traditionally prayers for one's relatives who have passed, and morning services. 7:30 to about 12:30 in the afternoon, which would be after the morning service. And then on Saturday mornings, beginning minion at 7:30, and ending also about midday after children's Hebrew school has, or Sunday services have, Hebrew school has concluded. We ask this because of the climate that's out there right now. There's been a onslaught of anti-Semitic acts. We hope with this nominal inconvenience to the police department that we have this deterrence and that there is no activity that happens in Woodbridge at all. There have been times where we have various events, and when we do have the events and we can plan appropriately, we have engaged your services for extra police protection, for which we have paid. This is something that's totally out of our budget, and we hope that you can accommodate us, and we're open to any suggestions you might have.
I guess it's something we can further discuss amongst ourselves. I mean, we can't take any action because it's not on the agenda to vote on, but we can certainly discuss it between today and the next meeting.
Right, I think that would probably be proper, especially in light of security measures and whatever, rather than be an open forum and on television to discuss security. But we would definitely consider that option and discuss it with the board and then get back to you on that.
Thank you, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, just real quick, what was the period on Sunday? You just didn't-
8:45 to
Well, yeah,
12,
minion,
15.
that's right.
Was that at 7:30?
7:30 Saturday
Saturday.
morning.
Oh,
Sunday
okay.
mornings later.
So 8.
So 8:30 to about 12:30?
Yeah, just a
12:15.
12:15?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard from the public? Okay, noting no one. Next item on the agenda is financial report.
In the financial report, we're obviously halfway through the fiscal year, and overall we're at just over 50% at 51.9 as of the other day. And I just want to note that most notably the overtime line, but all the contractual lines now we're being paid at since the contracts were set at a 2.5 increase, which was an unknown variable when the budget was planned at the beginning of the fiscal year. So it was not budgeted for, so all these lines going forward reflect that somewhat of an increase there. And And then that's something that the finance director will use funds put aside in contingency as we near the end of the fiscal year to address that in a proper manner.
Any questions?
Looks good.
Is there a motion to approve the financial report?
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Activity report.
Okay, an activity report on the criminal side, we had a burglary reported on the 20th of December on Lucy Street. Some computer and some electronics were missing. There was no forced entry, and that's being investigated by ISU of people that had access into that house there. So just the one burglary there. 3 larcenies, some of them were check related. One was an altered check that's being handled by the postal inspectors, as it's unsure where it was stolen from. Some missing jewelry at another residence, and they decided they don't want to pursue that. It's just a matter of record due to work that they had done at the house. And at a commercial establishment, we had unauthorized use of a credit card by an employee, and that ended up being handled as a labor matter within the agency. Throughout the month, we had a total of 7 cars last month that we had reports that they had entered. It was all during pretty much during 1 week, but they were spread out throughout town. Shepherd Road, Amity Road, Seymour Road, and Sonia Road, Deer Run, and Hunting Hill were the areas. We had 4 missing person cases. Two of the cases involved the same person. It ended up being more of a runaway than a missing person. The silver alerts went out for some of those as appropriate. In one of those, the person was located at a family member's house, and the other, the second one was located out of state in Norwalk. I mean, out of town in Norwalk.
Can I ask what happens in a silver alert?
The process of it? Okay, well, the person has to be under the 18 or under, and if they fall in that criteria, we could put that out as long as they're missing. We put it out to the state, and they weigh the extent of it, and then it goes forward with that. And then in amber is the one that's above that with other reasons. More, the silver alert's like a more
Scarier.
general one.
I see.
And just, it pretty much covers, unless there's some other special needs or whatever, but it covers a person under the age of 18 that goes missing. And then an amber alert would be if there were more specific and more endangerments and things like that, then would be take it to the next level. So. And then all those requests are evaluated actually by the state. We put it into the state,
takes it.
and then they decide if they're going to, grant the silver alert or not. If they do, then they broadcast it. And then the same way, when the person is located, we let them know, and then they retract it. And on the end of the month, end of last month, on the 27th, we had an armed robbery at the TD Bank at 128 Amity Road, and that involved 2 males, and one did brandish a handgun in that incident. They fled on a motorcycle. There was another party waiting outside. Central District Major Crime did assist us with processing the scene, and it looks like those same individuals actually did a similar bank robbery in East Haven last week. Same thing with a motorcycle and a handgun. This time the handgun was discharged on that, and ISU's been working with East Haven Police Department on a suspect. And from what I heard today, that the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office is going to maybe taking the lead on that, or going to be substantially involved, because it did involve 2 bank robberies, both with firearms. We had 2 stolen vehicles. One on the 13th that was stolen out of a driveway at night on the Ansonia Road, and one on the 15th that was stolen out of a residence driveway on Amity Road near Seymour Road. With the keys were left in both of those. And on we had a recovered stolen vehicle that was found abandoned and unoccupied on 20th Litchfield Turnpike near Bradley Road. And as far as ISU goes. They're working on the bank robbery, following up on the thefts on the motor vehicles. This year, this month, they had those bunch of cases, the residential burglary that I mentioned, and they've been working with the postal inspectors task force regarding some theft from mail boxes that we had, but ours were pretty much past cases now. It's somewhat subsided in town. And they had a fraud on Lunar Drive that was turned over to an agency out of state. As far as the old cases go, they have a bunch of a few search warrants pending at court still with some evidence that came back. And the kidnapping and robbery case that has been ongoing associated with the murder investigation that has been continued. The sentencing part for that has been continued to late January. They served 3 arrest warrants, one for a theft from Elm City trailer, one from a stolen vehicle on Inwood Road, and one for a mail theft forgery case from Amity Road from October of 2019. And they have 13 requests from the public for fingerprinting. And that's pretty much it for the criminal report, and the deputy chief will report on traffic activity and motor vehicle activity in town.
For motor vehicle accidents, we had 4 injury accidents reported. Non-injuries were 24, unknown was 1, so we're actually down for motor vehicle accidents. During the month of December, which is a tough month because of the holiday, I looked at the statistics, and most of the activity by the officers, not surprisingly, was during the first 2 weeks of December. If you break it down between the 1st and the 15th, 62 citations were issued. From the period the 15th to the 31st, 26. We had 9 speeding arrests where there were 321 radar enforcements done with 9 speeding arrests made. That's about it for motor vehicle activity. Although from previous months it was down considerably. My only excuse for that was the fact that it was the holiday season. I think the officers might have been a little bit more lenient. Certainly with looking at the statistics, that's what it was. And if you have any specific questions regarding the motor vehicle, I can answer them.
No questions?
Do you have any questions?
No questions?
Move to accept the report.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Unanimous? Okay. Chief, your report?
So my first topic somewhat correlates with the gentleman from public comments. Same type of concerns. I just wanted to update the board on that. Obviously with the ongoing events unfolding across the nation and across the world with respect to violence targeting various religious and cultural institutions, we've received some concerns from residents. I received one email, and I've been in contact with both that person who's a parishioner at one of the local churches and also with the pastor from that church. And I was also had offered to meet personally with them, just waiting to hear back on that. But without divulging too much information, I just want to let the board know that just like everyone, we're just as concerned and continue to take preventive measures and precautions as far as security goes. What I can share with you is that we remain in close contact daily with the Connecticut Intelligence Center and other local and federal authorities regarding daily events that are going on, throughout the state and the area, throughout the country, daily situation awareness and their credibility assessments of potential threats of violence. Our patrols have standing daily assignments at the specific locations in town, and we increase the police presence as necessary by what we hear is going on or what we're notified about, but also very often when we're in communication with somebody from one of the churches or one of the organizations, and they asked for some extra attention and extra, extra police presence. Speaking out, kind of in regards to what the gentleman said earlier. We've exchanged our information, or I've exchanged my information, and the deputy chief as well, with pretty much everybody in town, so they're able to get us 24/7. And in fact, Scott Cohen down at the JCC are always in close communication, sometimes very early in the morning or late at night, and very often on the weekends when concerns arise, and we do whatever we have to do to address it without hesitation. This week we had our monthly South Central Chiefs of Police meeting, and a topic arose, and there was one of the head lead agents at the FBI in New Haven was there to address all the chiefs' concerns about the same thing, about the violence that's going on in the Iran-Iraq controversies that are unfolding. And he assured us, at that time and as of recently, there are no credible threats against anything in Connecticut that they know. But as always, they would be in immediate contact with us and to let us know. And likewise, whatever any of our agency needed from them as far as resources, they're there for us. And currently, as of this week, I have one of our sergeants reaching out to all the cultural and religious institutions in town to get a schedule of their masses and services and their hours of operation, so we could plan accordingly to deal with that.
So what are your plans to quell some of the fears that have been brought to our attention tonight?
Reaching out to all those agencies, and ensuring them what we are doing, keeping the lines of communication open. I think that somehow we have to find how we want to discuss this most recent request about the car. Concerns about that or thoughts about that, because if we do for one, we kind of have to do for other. I know that same kind of topic came up at the schools before. They were saying, well, can't we just, give them a car and put it there, and things like that.
Well, I understand that that's probably not an option, but at some point we're going to have this discussion.
Yes, yeah, definitely, for sure. Sooner than later now, because
I would
get back to Mr.
I would expect you want to get back to him then.
Yeah.
So.
No, I do, so that's why we'll have to.
Well, under FOI, that falls under the safety exception, so we could probably discuss that in executive session next.
Okay.
Do we have to wait till next time?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a provision where you can vote to do it, even though it's not on the agenda, but I think it's safer to have the public
Do it.
alerted.
Yeah, I don't have a problem reaching out to him or Paul in the meantime and tell them what's going on, and that, we're not pushing it off, we're just gonna discuss it next time, but I'll share some information with them too.
Okay.
So I'll take care of that tomorrow. That's not a
Thank you.
problem. Yeah. And then the other item I had, I talked about this a couple times, but this Stop the Bleed initiative, as I reported over the past several months, most recently in November, Officer Pedalino did a Stop the Bleed emergency tourniquet training at the town hall for town employees, and prior to that in March, he did one for the public down to JCC. And since then, he and I have been discussing the possibility of purchasing our own Stop the Bleed training kit, so we could use it here in the Department for In-Service Training, and then also expand that training and offer it to different organizations and towns should they so desire. The kit costs about $1,000 or so. And at the same time, I had been in contact with speaking about that event and reached out to the Woodbridge Rotary. And I also have been in contact with Tony Anastasia, who's a town resident and he's formerly on the Board of Selectmen. He's very active in the Woodbridge Rotary. He was impressed with the training, and when he and I we talked about it. We crossed paths again at the recent, a couple months ago at the Veterans Day ceremony, and we talked about it again, and he graciously offered to buy the kit and donate it to the police department. And he came through with that offer, and the kit was recently delivered a couple weeks ago to the department. He was unable to join us this evening, but I'd like to just formally acknowledge his donation to the police department and thank him for his generosity. That we put that to good use, and I'll follow up with him with a formal thank you on behalf of us. That's it under my report.
Okay, so A motion to approve the
Motion to-
report of the chief. For second,
Second.
all those in favor? Unanimous.
Under personnel, we have the two candidates last month's meeting, we gave conditional offers to a dispatcher applicant and also to a certified police officer candidate. So we'll start with the dispatch candidate. She got, like I said, she received the conditional offer of employment, and since we last met, she successfully undergone and passed the required medical evaluation exam at Occupational Health. So that was the only thing that was remaining for her formal hiring. So with that, I seek the board's approval to officially hire Leslie Rivera for the position of a full-time dispatcher.
So motion to hire Leslie Rivera.
What's your starting rate?
It'll be the bottom, it'll be the, their bottom page. Third pay will be, 50, well, coming up in this fiscal year 21, so that'll be the highest side, 51,314.
How many dispatchers total do we have?
That'll be 6. That won't be.
So, and that's the low pay? That's the low starting pay?
Yeah.
It doesn't go, it goes into the 50s, about that, but not too.
Yeah, I mean, the top grade is 56, and the
Yeah,
bottom
yeah.
grade is 51.
I move to approve to hire Leslie Rivera.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
And then also, like I mentioned at last month's board meeting, we offered a conditional offer of employment to candidate Stephen Perlikis, certified police officer. Since we last met, he undergone and passed required polygraph, psychological evaluation. We still require the Cooper Standards physical fitness test, which he took and passed. And he passed his medical evaluation and examination at Occupational Health. So based upon those results, I asked the same as the last one, I seek the board's approval to officially hire him as a full-time certified police officer, and in keeping what we've done with all the last, or all the past certified police officers that we hired, do the same, and he would be hired at grade B pay rate with we'd start with 5 vacation days, and then after the completion of 1 year's service, his pay will go up to grade A, and after the completion of 1 year's service, he'll receive 10 vacation days. That's what we did with the last 6 or 7 that we hired. It was about the same.
Is he being hired under the most recently agreed contract?
Yes.
He is, so he doesn't get any college incentive.
No, you get college.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody gets college.
That was renegotiated in the new contract. No, we did.
It's after a period of time.
Yeah.
Right, you don't get it initially.
But the new hirees do not get a college incentive. It was very specific in the contract. You can check on the language, and if the language isn't there, have you signed it yet?
I remember there was, I'm drawing a blank on what the provision was about
I don't remember.
about the college.
We were not offering it. It was the only thing that was renegotiated.
Well, we can grab a copy.
Right, we can look at it,
Grab a
yeah.
copy
Yeah, 'cause you-
and double check.
I just want to make sure. You have to do it now, Jim.
Whatever needs to have.
So in any event, we're gonna, right, well, I'm gonna vote to hire him anyway, but, I know that was one thing that was probably the only thing we got negotiated in the contract.
When do you envision he would start?
I'll call him tomorrow, and then he'll have to, I'm sure he wants, he's gonna give a few weeks, at least 2 weeks minimum notice, I would imagine, to his former employer. But, yeah.
That was negotiated
I know it was.
away.
It was negotiated away
No.
for new hires.
Right. Do other things too, not just that.
Well, I remember that was one
I
thing.
remember there's one time frame that was extended.
There will be.
But I'll make a motion to offer him employment.
Second. Oh, can we do anything?
That doesn't have to be done now, because it's a moot point.
Well, we might as well
So,
put it out there so we'll all know.
Steve made a motion to approve, to offer.
Go ahead, yeah.
Stephen put like this, and I second it.
all those in favor?
Thank you all.
Josh, you just passed it?
They did give us like one time.
What?
Difference was in longevity. There's nothing here.
You should sign that contract.
When you find it.
It's fine. I've written that. Because I have all the emails.
Let me just point one of the last. Right.
You just,
Yes, you are, you're a corrupter.
That's it. See how long Steve holds out.
What? I know, I gotta finish my sandwich. No, I'm done.
Oh, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back to the, yeah, I'm done.
That's all you read.
Good.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
When was the change?
Negotiated
Last year?
in the last
Fall?
contract.
Last one?
Yeah, I do.
We don't have to spend
Yeah,
time
we'll
doing
find,
that.
we just gotta find the right
Right,
page,
because-
that's all, there's so many pages.
And we're gonna hire with or without, but I know that that
Yeah.
was part of the new contract.
Yeah, let's just.
We'll go
double
forward.
check. I'm pretty sure, I'm
I,
not certain,
Come up
but we'll find out, it's here.
Right.
Either
Well,
way.
this is getting really bad.
well, it
We're all
was,
getting
you know, that was the one,
diabetes.
that was
Peer
the
pressure
motion
is
that
actually incorruptible to
we,
begin with.
Peer pressure, right?
We'll see.
I may not remember names, but I remember numbers.
So let's move on to the patrol vacancy.
Since our last meeting, Officer Modina's officially resigned from the department. That was effective at the end of December. So now we currently have two vacant, besides the gentleman that we hired this evening, we still have two vacant patrol officer positions. We've had one position that's been vacant for almost a year now. That was because of the uncertainties that have been ongoing in regards to the Woodbridge Board of Ed funding of the SRO. So we had elected not to fill that, so there would not be any problem if that funding didn't come through. So hopefully, after fiscal year '21 budgets are approved, then we'll know what we're doing with that. But now with Officer Modina's resignation, that leaves us with this one additional vacancy. So it puts us down from, instead of having 23 patrol officers, we're still down at 21. We were down at 20 before we hired Stephen earlier. So that's where we are with that. So moving forward, I'd like to start at least doing the preliminary background checks on some certified applicants that have applied before, that expressed their interest in. At the least, we need to at least move forward with the process of seeking replacement for Officer Modine during this fiscal year, because it's all budgeted and it's in there to get us back up to staff with that. So that's the plan moving forward.
So-
Go ahead.
Before we do that, we kind of have to look at the sweet spot between filling the spots and how it relates to overtime, because I know at one point there was a suggestion that a full assignment of officers would help the overtime numbers, and that doesn't always play out. I know we had some unique situations that kind of skewed those numbers, but I guess the discussion with Tony Genovese would make sense, because I know that he had mentioned to me some time ago that there is a benefit to paying more overtime than having a full-time officer. But I guess those are like a number crunching he would
That
have
would
to
be
do for
nice
us.
to hear him come talk to us about that, so we don't forget that.
Well, I know last time we hired, I think, a couple years ago. I know one of the comments was, one of the selling points was, if we were at full capacity, that we would see a reduction in overtime. And we've seen absolutely just a increase in overtime. In
I
fact,
have to disagree with you on that.
well,
Because we haven't been full staffed. That's
well, if you go back to when we were, it did not reduce overtime. Absolutely did not. You can go back on the record, I've been on the record for how many times about that. So, you can go back and look at that. I think you'll find that that was not the case. So I think we do have to find that sweet spot. Because here you are again, you got even, you're predicting overtime to go from 110 to 135,
Correct.
right? And it just goes right down the line. You spend over 200,000 a year just in overtime. That's what percentage of your budget, it's a huge percentage of your budget.
But there is a benefit to paying some degree of overtime versus,
No question about it.
A full-time
Because
officer.
You're not paying the benefits.
right, and there are other expenses too.
Everything else,
Right,
right.
exactly. So I don't know what those numbers are. That's something that Tony has access to.
So that'd be an interesting question to ask.
So what do we want to do as far as I put?
I'm gonna ask Tony if he'd be
hiring
willing
a
to come and give us those numbers, either submit it in writing or,
Right, if
or,
you can't
I
come,
mean,
at least
it's
so we
kind of
know
hard.
what
He's
we're
got
thinking about.
small children. He works
Right.
9 to 5 for the
Just,
most part.
so we just know how to think about it.
All he needs is just an email to or something.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we'll
That's-
just
that'd be
post
great.
the,
Numbers are numbers.
we'll ask him to, send it to
Good,
us so we can at least put it, make it as part of the record.
yeah, it's very
Right, because the
compelling.
overtime part of, I know it's,
I mean, it's a financial decision, wherever that falls, it
Right.
falls,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
I'll rely on his,
And one of the things we can weigh is the adequacy of staffing and whatnot with overtime and a fiscal thing, just weigh all these
right,
things.
you have a fiscal decision and
And a safety.
and a safety decision.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have
We
to
just need
provide-
all the
Right.
cards in our hands.
Right, and you don't want to
Yeah.
reduce services.
Right,
Yeah.
so we're significantly down. I don't want to beat it to death, but
Right.
we've been talking about this for a few years, and we're at 20, and now we're trying to get back up to where we are, and we're talking about, security and everything else that we're trying to provide, and we're trying to do the best we could with the staff that's a little bit smaller than we had in previous years, and so be it. We just don't want to cut ourselves too short, that's all I'm saying.
I'm willing to address this next meeting. I'm not talking about months from now in a study.
Yeah, no, I'm not either, I'm just saying. that's
We can do it immediately. I just,
saying, yeah.
We
um,
just need that info, yeah.
I didn't know that we were gonna be asked tonight to start filling that, so
No, start looking into the candidates, but I'll hold off on it, no sense in.
if we can just wait a month and we'll address it, hopefully we can get an answer from him by next meeting. Do you guys have the most recent contract? I can just look at it quickly.
That's it right there.
We did a change.
I know, I
But here's the, but these are
Is that the
these
new
are the
contract?
highlights, right?
I don't want the highlights, I just want the contract.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Is that the new contract, or the one that's about to be signed? Or what?
No, this was signed a while ago.
If he didn't sign it, he's the chair, I assume you have to
Well,
sign it, right?
This was, when was this negotiated?
Last year, right? But
That's,
this one,
that's,
July,
it went into effect in October, but it was
College
July 1,
business.
Yeah.
2019.
So, let's see.
I don't have my phone, but
Is there another
I can go
page of the
into.
table of contents? No.
No.
Wait a
I'm
second.
fast.
He's pretty fast.
And the photographic memory has it all down. What was on page 7?
So, yeah,
Bachelor's degree?
right. So it doesn't have a limitation on that.
Well, you gotta go back and
All
check
the,
with
all the
Howard.
changes are right there.
I don't care what the changes say, I know what I negotiated with,
No, I'm just
Well,
saying, the
that-
changes that
I
were
get
made to previous
I
contract.
get it, that's,
Were all documented.
I get it, I understand. So we'll call Tony Genovese and we'll get an explanation why it's not there, because I know, and I have the emails. So if it's inaccurate,
We didn't even-
then it's inaccurate. I mean, you guys didn't negotiate it, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember
that'll be-
signing it, I didn't sign it. I thought in the past I had.
You always did.
I mean, I'm not even on here.
Well, it's a moot point now, but it'll be,
Yeah.
we'll make a point of calling Tony tomorrow and ask him about it.
I do remember, I don't remember what the parameters were, but I do remember addressing it with Dave Ryan.
I remember a discussion came up, I remember the commissioner, you had made it about, making a requirement that possible, wasn't there a thought at one point that we should have college? You thought
That we
everybody
should-
should have college?
We-
Yeah, as a requirement,
it was
there was a minimum requirement.
Yeah,
Right.
prerequisite.
But there was no, there was
to
no,
hire.
there was no.
Additional pages.
additional pay
Right.
For college.
Is that contract in force?
I
Has
don't
it
know.
been signed?
But I know that by doing that, we made it a prerequisite
College or prerequisite?
to hiring,
Can you send me a
and we were
copy of the
not
contract?
paying.
This
Going
was the
forward,
one
anybody that had it
Are
was
we
always
spending-
getting it. We were not paying a premium for
I'm sorry?
college
It's an
education.
agreement between,
No, I know, but I remember in the past, I could have sworn that I had signed a previous contract.
I don't think so, because it's, 'cause like I said, it's an agreement between.
They changed the language
Union body.
and made it a.
No, I understand that, but I don't know, oh, I don't
No,
know.
I-
which negated
You know, I'd have to
the
ask
college
Jerry,
incentive
because I just don't
for any
remember. I know,
retirees
I thought I
to
had
do
signed a
this
contract in the
contract.
past, because there was an issue that was presented to me. There was an addendum to the contract that was incorrect in our past contract that I asked them to change.
Mhm.
That's what,
But is this contract signed by anyone?
yes, it's
Oh,
signed
yeah,
by,
it's
it is.
it's signed.
It's signed by the union, it's signed by
It's enforced.
the chief, signed by Beth,
Okay.
but she didn't negotiate it.
I remember we, with Ryan, Mr. Ryan, he was very clear that it was a prerequisite to hire him. You needed to have a college degree. And by doing that, we, going forward, any new hirees would not be paid a stipend for a college education for receiving a college degree. I'm telling you, you can disagree with me all you want, but I know it was negotiated. And that's great. And if it wasn't in there, then that's inaccurate, and I don't know what we do about it, because it's a signed contract. But, I don't know what the options are, but I know that
I
that
think
was
that
the
might,
reason.
that you might have, if you did, you might have raised it as a thought or a thing, I don't know if that was,
It
it's
wasn't a
obviously
thought.
not in there, so.
No, it wasn't a thought, it was a telephone call that I received and an email that said, here's the new language, and this is what's going forward.
So.
Well, that's what they gave Ryan for. He's
Right,
giving the
yeah,
negotiator-
right, no, I'm not arguing with you guys.
Negotiator.
You're just
With
going,
the bargaining unit.
and if it's not
We have
there, then it
nothing to do
should.
with it.
Right, I get it. Right, I mean, you look pretty surprised when I mentioned it,
Yeah.
so.
I was part of the
Anyway.
discussions also, I do remember that occurring. I'm just disappointed that it didn't make the contract.
Well, there were a lot of things that were probably talked about on both sides that.
Right.
made
No, but
the
that was
contract,
something
some
that
didn't,
was-
some didn't, but, yeah, I know, that's something you have to
Yeah, it's
clarify
nothing
with
to do with,
Mr. Ryan.
and it's nothing to do with the new officer that we just hired, who I think is gonna be
Yeah.
a great addition, so,
Okay. So we're up to the
operating.
operating budget.
Okay, so the operating budget was due in the finance office by January 3rd, so we submitted a draft copy of it because of the fact that some commissions as ours don't meet until after their deadline. So we shared that proposed budget with Commissioner Falsigno and Commissioner Esposito. And I can just say that we work together with the finance director to keep it as low and as responsible as we can. As usual, you know, the majority of our contract is contractual, and this contract contains the contractual increases that coincide with the labor agreement that we were just discussing. And because of that, there's 2 years of raises in there. You know, for fiscal year 20, that was when that contractual agreements were settled for both of our unions, and then also projected out into fiscal year 21, what you see there. But those raises were not the exact number, but the increases were forecasted that was, you know, that there would be raises coming. So that's the reflection there with that. Overall, I think the total budget, it shows a 6% increase, and that is just a little bit over that, 5% of that is all the contractual raises. And on the operating side, it's pretty bare bones. We're only up a little bit over $14,000, and those are for some different things that, you know, we could discuss. So I can tell you which are significant lines that are the ones that might, you know, draw your attention to that we have here. The first one is the under officer's salary, the overtime line, like Commissioner Falsigo mentioned before. We're asking for, we put in there for $25,000 more than what we were given last year, and that directly relates to, you know, the overtime cost. We entered into an agreement with to pay overtime to cover our sergeant's pay when the lieutenant's position was defunded back then. And that first year, it cost us somewhere close to, I want to say, somewhere close to in the high $30,000 range. And the second year, we did not include any of that in there again, so we kind of started out in the hole. But the long and short of it is, you know, our projection again is that's, you know, where we're going to be. So that was the increase.
So you're
that.
up 20% on officers' overtime. Is that what you're saying? From 110 to 130.
$25,000 to be realistic,
Well,
but
let's see. Yeah, so it's
whatever percent.
20%.
Whatever percent that comes out
20%.
to. And
That's a huge increase.
And you're projecting that because you're short.
I'm projecting that based on, part of it's from short, part of it's from caseload. Part of it is from all the things that the common things that we do every year. I can try to run down a list of those things for you that generate our overtime. But yeah, a lot of it is, some of it's because we're short, and some of it's just the paid contractual increases. And historically, looking back, you'll see that it's always been about the same. We budget less, we're going to ask for that $135,000, and we probably won't get that. And at times that's offset with the like the chairman was saying, when we have a shortage or a vacancy, then, you know, it'll come out of the other. You know, if the overtime lines up, according to what the finance director told me, when the overtime, if one's up, the other one's down. They kind of offset each other. The officer's salary line will offset the overtime line. I mean, we could leave it at, leave it where it was if we don't want to go up, but we have, 5% raises on top of that. I'm just, we do our best,
Responsible
but
budget.
Yeah.
pretty much kind of, we proposed the same, I think we proposed last year, 130,000, and it was cut to 110. So that's where we're at. So we're just trying to realistically forecast and project what we're going to need, what we're given,
Sure.
so be it, and we'll work within that the best we could and make it work. Overtime training, we kind of wanted to increase it so we could do more training, but we did not. We left it at the same, and it went up $2,000, and pretty much that's so we can maintain the same number of hours that we did this past year, but with the 2.5% increases for the 2 years. Medical expenses went up a little bit just because those went up, but that was 52170. It was $500. That was all. The big one that you'll see as you go down On the operational side was 53510, repair, maintenance, and machinery and equipment. And what happened with that one is that prior to that, in fiscal year 19, we were budgeted at $38,000. And then this past year, in fiscal year 20, with the reduction, the finance director made a reduction in it because of the impending simulcast radio system, new radio system that we got. So he reduced that at approximately $26,000. He took out all the contracts that were related to that radio, the new radio system. That'll all be under warranty, so we won't have to worry about it during the upcoming year. But in the meantime, besides that, even though we reduced the budget with that, we had some other, as we move into fiscal year 21, we have some warranties on some equipment that expired. So now the warranties will be out and the service maintenance contracts have to start. And those totaled almost $9,000 there. So that's what the increase was, just things that went up. We had to take out our service contracts for our voice logger, our recording system. That was a new system. The warranty expired on that. Our APHIS figurement printing machine, the LPR. So those were the increases on that line there.
What does APR stand for?
License plate reader.
LPR, license plate recognition. Yeah, license plate reader. No other significant lines, and then as we get to towards the end there, capital machinery last year, that was that line and capital furniture fixtures, they were both cut down to zero. But under capital machinery this year, we included $3,900. We're looking to replace a taser. That's about $1,900. We're looking to we had to start replacing body camera batteries. And those at a cost of approximately $25 each for 25 batteries. And just some other stuff. We need an ISU camera, property room gun safe, evidence storage bin. So that's what the cost is for that. We were going to seek a new shredder for the administrative office, but we cut that out. And under capital furniture, we're looking to get some bookcases and shelving in the administrative offices and ISU. Pretty much the long and short of that is that we're running out of space and we need to stack things up, so we're looking for some shelving to do that. That's about all I have to say about that. Unless anybody has any questions.
No. So the presentation's the 23rd,
Yes,
the budget.
the operating budget for the,
Okay.
Correct.
it's the 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
So
it.
we need a motion to,
Motion to approve the budget notes.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion?
That's all I gotta say.
You did?
Yeah. I just find I just find that the overtime is unconscionable. And we talk about reining it in. I mean, your college incentives was $92,000 a year. And, I mean, these are things that we, as fiscal stewards of the town, which is what we're here for. If I don't say something about it, I don't think I'm really kind of fulfilling my duty. So, I mean, those are things that we always talk about working on. There's certain things we gotta work on, and the overtime is a huge line item. I mean, it's $135,000, and it's gotta be controlled in some way, shape, or form.
But see,
I know you can't, I
get
get it.
Look at what we've had. We've had 2 murders in 18 months.
Well, but isn't that, doesn't that mostly fall upon the investigative unit? Right?
Right, but
Right?
that's included in that
I know.
overtime, the officer.
Well, no, I get it.
Not in
So,
the
I mean,
$15,000
so
line.
No, I know that, so I'm saying, so that's kind of an anomaly, right, we hope,
I hope.
right? So all things being equal, I think we just need to make an effort to pay attention to that line and maybe come up with creative ways of stemming it from going up 20% a year. I mean, that's a huge number. 110 to 135. It's more than 20%.
It'll be useful to see what we get more about from Tony Genovese about
Right.
weighing the
Yeah, I don't want to
numbers, 'cause
belabor, but
it may be that we appreciate the overtime in lieu of more officers, so let's, we need more
But if you go back historically, I mean, for many years, it was always within a pretty reasonable range, in my opinion. 50 to 75,000, it used to be. You can go back and
I
look.
had to be going way back.
10 years.
I'm not gonna give, oh yeah,
10 years.
10 years ago.
10 years.
Yeah.
Right, but between '05 and '10, I remember there really wasn't much, because I remember not really making too much of a stink about it, but, because it was always within a range. But now it just seems, I think the other problem with that line item, which is certainly none of it's not the department's fault, but I think the town has depended upon the police department in certain ways that it didn't back then, right? So those are things that, but that's something that you can probably have a debate with the powers that be about maybe not having that as our responsibility, and that might affect your overtime budget.
But you just said it, Steve, regarding, the town is doing a lot more than it did years ago.
I get
Can
it.
you imagine what it would cost? Now, you remember that you used to have the carnival, 5 nights at the carnival. We used to have 6 to 7 officers each night at the carnival. Can you imagine what the overtime would be if we still had the carnival at 5 nights during the week? It would be astronomical.
But
But
in those
they-
years, our overtime wasn't,
Oh, yes, it would. Those
Was it
years that we had carnival,
astronomically high?
that's when it did start getting high. But I'm just using that as an example, that the town is doing, like you said, I'm just agreeing with you, that the town is doing a lot more,
certain
But it
things you can't
normally didn't.
control. I can complain about it, but I know you can't control. But as
The
I
only way
said,
you
if I
can-
don't bring it to your attention that's a huge increase, then, not that you don't know it already, but, as I said, I think maybe there's gotta be some creative ideas. And maybe the conversation isn't with this department, maybe it's in conjunction with other departments that utilize our services and create an expense on our side that really shouldn't be on our side.
Can you just enlighten me, Ray? What are the things we're doing now that we weren't doing years ago?
Well,
Go ahead.
I mean, just.
Well, a lot of the jobs, if the town, I think, right, if some of the departments need a police officer on a road job, right, or some work is being done around town,
Right,
I think those
I
are
just
some-
wanna run down some of the things
He's
that
got a
we.
list of them.
Yeah.
Look, here's where our overtime pretty much is generated from. Either it's patrol coverage, voluntary, or this mandatory
Right.
thing that we agreed to cover the sergeant shifts. I mean, that put us up a good 20,000 plus every year, and, that was agreed to it. And we never put the money in for the last two years. We don't put it in, but we keep paying it, so that's in there. We have to cover vacations, we have to cover for patrol, we have to cover officer shortages. Case incident related, we have, there's late calls for service that come in at the end of the shift, ongoing cases that continue into the next shift, investigations and follow-up. We do highway, safety grants, but those are all being, those are all being, 100% reimbursed, so we can leave that out. All the storms, anything that's storm related, wires down or anything, UI or no one pays for it. If it has to do with the storm, no matter how many sites we have to man or how many hours it takes, it comes out of our budget, that's not extra duty. The UI and utility companies only pay if it's a motor vehicle accident or work